A harmless DNA test just tore my family apart. Can't believe this. Chapter 1. The Beginning of a Family. Madison and Jake were just teenagers when they first crossed paths in high school. They met in a crowded cafeteria, both reaching for the last slice of pepperoni pizza. Their eyes met, and laughter bubbled up between them. That moment marked the beginning of a beautiful relationship. They bonded over shared interests, particularly their love for music and late-night study sessions, often staying up until dawn discussing their hopes and dreams. Jake was the quiet, responsible type with a heart of gold. He often sat in the back of the classroom, yet he was the first to offer help to anyone struggling with math homework. Madison, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy, known for her infectious laughter and a smile that could light up even the darkest days. They found a rhythm together, each complementing the other's personality. Their first date was a classic, a movie followed by ice cream at a local parlor, where they spent hours talking and dreaming about the future. Madison vividly remembered how Jake had blushed when she playfully shoved a scoop of vanilla ice cream into his face. That silly moment sparked a connection that felt deeper than anything they had experienced before. After Jake returned from the military, they tied the knot in a quaint ceremony surrounded by family and friends. Madison was radiant in her lace dress, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she stepped into this new chapter of their lives. They shared vows filled with promises of love and loyalty, envisioning a life filled with adventures and dreams yet to be realized. Soon after, they welcomed their first child, Olivia, a bright-eyed girl with a captivating smile who seemed to inherit Madison's spirited nature. Over the next few years, their family grew, adding 4 more children: Matthew, Emma, Grace, and little Noah. Their home became a vibrant hub of laughter and chaos. The children filled every corner with their energy, turning the house into a playground. Madison took to motherhood like a fish to water, organizing playdates, baking cookies for school events, and creating a lively atmosphere where every child felt loved and valued. Jake, the steady and responsible partner, supported her every step of the way, working tirelessly to provide for the family while still finding time for his children. He adored the little moments, the bedtime stories, the soccer games, and the spontaneous dance parties in the living room. Together, they shared dreams of a happy, thriving household, painting a bright future in their minds as they navigated the beautiful chaos of family life. Chapter 2. The Trials of Parenthood. As the years rolled on, the initial excitement of parenthood began to wane. The reality of raising 5 children was a monumental task. It was a constant balancing act of school schedules, extracurricular activities, and daily chores. Madison, once vibrant and enthusiastic, began to feel the weight of exhaustion bearing down on her. The joy she once felt started to be overshadowed by fatigue and stress that seemed to accumulate day by day. Despite Jake's unwavering support, Madison often felt overwhelmed. The house was never quiet, and there were always endless tasks to complete. From diaper changes to homework help, each day blurred into the next, and she felt like she was losing herself in the whirlwind of motherhood. The vibrant, carefree girl Jake had married felt like a distant memory, replaced by a woman who struggled to find joy in the mundane. Jake stepped up, trying to shoulder more responsibilities at home. He took on additional work hours, hoping to ease Madison's burden, but it only added to her feelings of isolation. As he became busier, Madison's emotional distance grew. She started to withdraw, spending more time alone in her thoughts rather than engaging with the family. She would often sit in silence, staring out the window, lost in her worries while her children played around her. The children noticed the change. Olivia, now old enough to understand, began to take on more responsibility, trying to fill the gaps left by her mother's emotional absence. She helped with her younger siblings, becoming a little mother herself, which only added to the pressure she felt. Matthew and Emma became each other's confidants, often whispering about their worries late into the night. Grace and Noah, though still young, sensed the shift and struggled to articulate their feelings. In the midst of the chaos, Jake felt helpless. He loved Madison fiercely and wanted to support her, but he struggled to understand what she needed. They would have fleeting moments of connection, shared glances during family meals, or quiet conversations after the kids went to bed. But those moments were increasingly overshadowed by tension and unspoken worries. Jake's heart ached as he watched the vibrant life they once shared begin to fade. Chapter 3: The Sudden Departure. One stormy evening, as rain pattered against the windows, Madison gathered her courage to speak to Jake. Her heart raced as she confessed her feelings of being overwhelmed and disconnected from the family. "I feel like I'm drowning, Jake," she admitted, her voice trembling. Despite Jake's reassurances, Madison felt trapped in a life she no longer recognized. The stress had built to a breaking point, and in a moment that would change everything, she announced her decision to leave, taking only a few personal belongings. The air in the house thickened with disbelief as Madison walked out the door. The children, still unaware of the true gravity of the situation, were confused and hurt. They had sensed the tension but couldn't comprehend why their mother would choose to leave. Jake was left standing in the doorway, feeling as if the ground had been pulled from beneath him. The silence that followed was deafening, echoing the heartache that now permeated their home. Days turned into weeks, and the initial shock transformed into a deep, aching void. Jake was thrust into single parenthood overnight. He struggled to manage the household alone while working to provide for the family. The kids were distraught, often asking for their mother, and Jake did his best to reassure them. He learned to cook, clean, and juggle the demands of raising 5 children. Some nights, he would sit on the couch after the kids were asleep, feeling utterly exhausted yet determined to keep their spirits high. The children were coping in their own ways. Olivia became the protector, trying to shield her siblings from the emotional fallout. She often organized games and activities to keep everyone occupied, but the underlying sadness was always present. Matthew and Emma, though young, showed signs of anxiety, frequently asking when their mother would come home. Grace and Noah, too young to fully understand, expressed their confusion through tantrums and tears. Jake found solace in small victories. He celebrated Matthew scoring a goal in soccer and Emma mastering her spelling words. He took pride in being both mother and father, pouring his heart into raising his children. The laughter returned, but it was tinged with the memory of what they had lost. Every holiday felt bittersweet, and while they created new traditions, the shadow of Madison's absence loomed large. Jake's resolve to create a loving home for his children grew stronger, but the pain of loss was a constant companion. Chapter 4: Life Without Madison. As the seasons changed, Jake began to establish a new normal for their family. He created a routine that involved family dinners, game nights, and weekend outings to keep the kids engaged. He became a master multitasker, learning how to braid hair, help with homework, and soothe scraped knees, all while keeping a brave face. Yet beneath the surface, he grappled with the emotional fallout of Madison's departure. Jake found ways to cope with the solitude. He often took the kids to the park, where they would play tag and picnic under the trees. They shared stories and jokes, gradually rebuilding the bonds that had been shaken. In the evenings, they would gather around the television for movie nights, popcorn flying as they laughed at the silly antics on screen. These moments reminded Jake of the joy they still shared, even in the absence of Madison. The children began to adapt to their new life, though the absence of Madison lingered in the air. Jake encouraged them to share their feelings, and in those moments of vulnerability, he saw glimpses of resilience in each of them. They took comfort in each other, often leaning on one another during tough times. Olivia, in her quest to keep the family united, organized movie marathons and game nights, filling their home with laughter. Jake would sometimes catch himself reminiscing about Madison, the way she used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings, the sound of her laughter as she chased the children around the yard. But the memories were bittersweet. He reminded himself that he had to focus on the present and the happiness they could create together as a family. Each day was a step forward, a chance to embrace the new dynamics of their life. Yet, the emotional scars from Madison's departure remained, casting a shadow over their progress. The kids would occasionally ask questions about their mother, and while Jake answered as honestly as he could, he often found himself searching for the right words. He didn't want to vilify Madison, nor did he want to diminish the pain their absence caused. He hoped that, one day, they could find a way to heal together. Chapter 5: An Unexpected Reunion. 6 years passed, and just when Jake felt he had finally found his footing, Madison returned. She stood at the door one evening, looking older and wearier than he remembered. Her clothes were slightly worn, and her hair, once vibrant, now seemed dull. There was an air of uncertainty about her as she shifted nervously on the doorstep. Her eyes were filled with regret as she pleaded to reconnect with the children. Jake's heart raced as he stood there, frozen in disbelief. The memories of her leaving flooded back, her laughter, her energy, and the heart-wrenching pain of her departure. He felt an instinctive urge to protect his children, but he also recognized that they had a right to know their mother. He stepped aside, allowing her to enter, but his mind raced with questions and concerns. As Madison walked into the living room, her gaze swept over the chaos that had become their home. The children were scattered around, each absorbed in their own activities. Jake watched as Madison's face softened with a mix of nostalgia and pain. Olivia was the first to notice her mother, and her reaction was a blend of surprise and uncertainty. The other children followed suit, their faces displaying a mix of hope and wariness. "Mom?" Olivia's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Madison, who took a hesitant step forward. "I'm back, sweetheart," Madison said, her voice choked with emotion. Tears welled in her eyes as she struggled to find the right words. "I'm so sorry for everything. I want to see you all again." The air was thick with tension as the children exchanged glances. Matthew shifted uncomfortably, and Emma bit her lip, unsure of how to react. Grace and Noah, still too young to fully understand the complexities of adult relationships, looked at their mother with wide eyes. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness rise within him. "You left us, Madison," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "You walked away from your family. What makes you think we can just welcome you back?" Madison lowered her gaze, shame washing over her features. "I know I hurt you all. I can't change the past, but I want to be here for you now. I've realized how much I've missed you, and how wrong I was to leave." The children were silent, absorbing her words. Olivia stepped forward, her heart torn. "Do you really mean it? Are you really back for good?" Madison nodded vigorously, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, I've spent so long trying to figure things out, and I finally understand what matters most. I want to make things right." Jake watched the interaction, feeling the weight of the moment. Could they trust her? Would her return bring more hurt, or could it signal a new beginning? He understood that the children needed to make their own decisions, but he couldn't shake the fear that her presence could unravel the stability they had built. Chapter 6: The Complexity of Reunion. As days passed, the tension of Madison's return lingered in the air. The children struggled with their emotions, caught between the desire to reconnect with their mother and the scars left by her absence. Jake observed their interactions with Madison closely, his protective instincts kicking in. He wanted to support them, but the wounds ran deep, and the fear of further heartbreak loomed over them all. Madison made earnest attempts to reconnect, participating in family activities and sharing stories about her life while she was away. She brought small gifts for each child, thoughtful tokens that reflected their interests. For Olivia, a beautiful necklace; for Matthew, a new soccer ball; for Emma, a sketchbook filled with inspiration; for Grace, a cute doll; and for little Noah, a colorful puzzle. Each gift was met with mixed reactions, some smiles, some frowns, but mostly an underlying current of uncertainty. During a family dinner, Madison tried to recreate one of her famous recipes, spaghetti and meatballs. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of garlic and herbs, reminiscent of happier times. As they gathered around the table, laughter began to fill the room, but it felt fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. "Do you remember the time you tried to teach me how to cook?" Olivia asked, her voice tentative yet hopeful. Madison chuckled, her eyes lighting up with memories. "I burned the noodles, and we ended up ordering pizza instead." Madison laughed, but as the laughter subsided, Jake noticed a shadow pass over Olivia's face, as if she were recalling the years spent without her mother. Matthew cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Why did you leave, Mom? We really needed you." The question hung in the air, heavy and poignant. Madison's expression faltered as she struggled for words. "I was lost, Matthew. I thought leaving would solve my problems, but it only made things worse. I've realized that I hurt you all, and I'm so sorry." Jake felt the tension rise again. The truth was complex, and Madison's absence had reshaped their family in ways they were still processing. The children needed time, but Jake could see that the road to healing would be long and fraught with challenges. Chapter 7: The DNA Revelation. As the family navigated this delicate period of reunion, Olivia became increasingly curious about her identity. She had recently received a DNA testing kit as a gift from a friend and decided to send it in, thinking it would be a fun activity to explore her ancestry. Little did she know that the results would send shockwaves through the family. When the results arrived, Olivia opened the envelope with excitement, eager to uncover the mysteries of her heritage. As she read the results, her heart sank. A nagging fear crept into her mind as she reread the information, noticing the discrepancies in the familial connections listed. Her blood ran cold, and panic surged within her as she rushed to find Jake. "Dad!" Olivia exclaimed, her voice trembling. "You need to see this. I don't think I'm really your daughter." Jake's heart raced as he turned to face her. "What are you talking about, Olivia?" Olivia thrust the results into his hands, her eyes wide with disbelief. As he scanned the document, confusion morphed into dread. The test indicated that Olivia had a very low percentage of DNA connection to Jake. The implications were staggering, and the emotional weight of that discovery was almost unbearable. Jake felt the world tilt beneath him. Could this be true? The woman he had trusted with his heart, the mother of his children, was it all a lie? His thoughts spiraled into chaos as he battled with disbelief and betrayal. "This can't be right," he murmured, shaking his head. "But the test says," Olivia began, but Jake cut her off, his voice sharp with emotion. "We need to talk to your mother." They gathered the family in the living room, where the tension was palpable. Jake's heart was heavy as he explained the situation. Olivia did a DNA test, and it seems there might be a problem with the results. Madison's face drained of color as she processed the information. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "According to the test, Olivia isn't biologically related to me," Jake replied, his voice tight with anger and pain. "What does this mean, Madison? Was this another lie?" Madison's eyes widened with shock, and she shook her head vehemently. "No, I swear, Jake, I never." Before she could finish, the room erupted into chaos. Olivia burst into tears, and the other children stared in confusion. "What's happening?" Matthew cried out, looking between his parents. The emotional turmoil exploded, and the once fragile peace they had worked to rebuild shattered in an instant. Chapter 8: Doubts and Anger. The revelation hung over the family like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over the fragile connections they had been trying to rebuild. Jake found himself in a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, confusion, and betrayal battled within him. He struggled to reconcile the idea that Olivia might not be his biological daughter with the love he felt for her. She had always been his little girl, and the thought of losing that bond was unbearable. The days that followed were tense and fraught with uncertainty. Jake withdrew emotionally, grappling with the implications of the DNA results. He began to see Olivia through a different lens, a mix of love and doubt intertwining in his heart. The image of their happy family was mirrored by the question of identity and trust. During dinner one night, Jake was unusually quiet. The atmosphere felt heavy, the laughter that had once filled the room now replaced by silence. Matthew broke the tension. "Dad, are you okay? You've been really quiet since, you know." Jake sighed, searching for the right words. "I just need some time to process everything, guys. It's a lot to take in." He could feel their eyes on him, and the weight of their expectations pressed heavily on his shoulders. He had always been their rock, the steady hand guiding them through life's storms, but now he felt lost. As the days turned into weeks, Jake struggled to connect with Olivia. The innocence of their bond felt tainted, and every time he looked at her, he was reminded of the doubt that gnawed at him. He saw the way she tried to reach out, her eyes pleading for reassurance, but his heart felt too heavy to respond. Meanwhile, Olivia was grappling with her own emotional turmoil. She had always looked up to Jake as her father, and the thought that he might not be her biological dad shattered her sense of identity. She felt betrayed by Madison and confused about her place in the family. The bond she had with Jake felt more fragile than ever, and she feared losing him completely. In her search for answers, Olivia confronted Madison one evening. Why didn't you tell me? How could you keep this a secret?" The hurt in her voice was evident, and Madison felt the sting of her daughter's words. "I didn't know, Olivia," Madison replied, her voice trembling. "I thought you were my daughter. I love you like you were my own. I never meant for you to find out this way." Olivia's heart ached with the weight of the conversation. "But you did. You kept so much from us. How can I trust anything you say now?" Madison's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I want to be here for you, but I need time to figure things out too." Chapter 9. The Quest for Truth. In the wake of the shocking revelations, Olivia took it upon herself to uncover the truth about her origins. Determined to find answers, she delved into the details of her birth and her mother's past. She spent hours searching online, piecing together fragments of information that had been kept hidden for far too long. Her investigation led her to the clinic where she was born, and she managed to obtain information about her biological father. As she pieced together the story, Olivia felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Who was this man who had been a part of her life without her ever knowing? After several phone calls, Olivia discovered that her biological father was living in another state. The thought of reaching out to him filled her with both hope and fear. What would he say? Would he want to meet her? And how would it affect her relationship with Jake? One evening after dinner, Olivia confided in Jake. "I've been doing some research about my biological father. I think I want to meet him." Jake's heart sank. He felt a surge of protectiveness for Olivia, but also recognized that she had a right to know the truth about her origins. "Are you sure that's what you want? This could complicate things even more." "I know, Dad," Olivia replied, determination in her voice. "But I need to know. It's important to me." Jake sighed, torn between his desire to support her and the fear of losing her to someone else. "Just be careful, okay? You have to remember that no matter what, you're still my daughter." As Olivia prepared for her journey to meet her biological father, she felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She was stepping into uncharted territory, and she knew that whatever she discovered could change everything. Chapter 10. The Confrontation. After several days of planning, Olivia finally set off to meet her biological father. The drive was filled with a tumult of emotions: anxiety, curiosity, and the lingering fear of betrayal. She arrived at his address, her heart pounding in her chest as she knocked on the door. When he opened it, Olivia was struck by the resemblance. He had the same eyes, the same smile. For a moment, she felt an overwhelming connection, but it was quickly overshadowed by the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "Hi, I'm Olivia," she said, her voice wavering. "I think you might be my father." His eyes widened in surprise, and he stepped back, allowing her to enter. "I had no idea," he said, his voice low and hesitant. "How did you find me?" Olivia took a deep breath, her heart racing. "I did a DNA test and found out that I'm not biologically related to my dad. I wanted to know the truth." The conversation unfolded slowly, filled with questions and revelations. Her biological father shared pieces of his life, revealing details about why he had been absent. He expressed regret and a desire to get to know her, but Olivia struggled with the emotions swirling within her. How could she reconcile this new connection with the love she had for Jake? Meanwhile, back home, Jake and Madison faced their own confrontation. The tension had reached a boiling point, and they needed to address the fallout from the revelations. They sat together in the living room, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," Madison began, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to protect you and the kids. I thought I was doing what was best." "But you weren't," Jake replied, anger rising in his chest. "You kept secrets that have changed everything. How can we rebuild trust when you've broken it so deeply?" Madison looked down, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I know I made mistakes, but I want to be a part of this family again. I want to support Olivia and all of you. Please let me prove it." Jake's heart ached as he saw the sincerity in her eyes. But the path to forgiveness would be long, and he wasn't sure he was ready to take that step yet. "It's going to take time, Madison. Trust doesn't come easy after it's been broken." As the sun set outside, the air was thick with unresolved tension, and they both knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. They were at a crossroads, forced to confront the truth and navigate the tangled web of love, betrayal, and the search for identity. Epilogue: The unraveling. In the months that followed, the family continued to navigate the aftermath of the revelations. Olivia's relationship with her biological father grew, but it never diminished the bond she had with Jake. She learned to cherish both parts of her identity, finding strength in the love that surrounded her. Madison worked tirelessly to rebuild trust with her children and Jake, but the scars of her past choices remained. She was determined to prove that she could be a mother again, though the path to forgiveness was fraught with challenges. Each day brought new opportunities for healing, as they slowly pieced together the fragments of their fractured family. Jake learned to embrace the complexities of fatherhood, understanding that love wasn't always defined by biology. He watched Olivia flourish, finding her place in the world as she balanced her relationships with both her biological father and him. The family began to heal, but the echoes of their past would always linger. In the end, they discovered that family wasn't just about blood. It was about love, connection, and the willingness to face the truth together. Each member of the family had to confront their own demons, but together, they forged a new bond, one that was stronger and more resilient than before.